Okay, so it looks like we're back. We looks like we had to restart the show and everything like that. So we do apologize for everybody we lost. Hopefully they join us back. Um,
I told you, IT geek, you shouldn't have those monkeys in the background trying to wire up the stuff back there,
I
man.
know, I know,
It's just bad idea.
I know. I hear you, brother. So let's see here if we try and get back to the show here to see where we're.
Are we back?
I think we are. Hang on.
Okay.
Okay, looks like we're back.
All
Back
right.
in. I think we had to restart the show, so unfortunately we lost all of our viewers, all of our comments. So
Well, they will join back in. I mean, this is
exactly.
This is not the first time, and it sure as hell won't be the last. I can promise you that.
Hell no, it will not.
So, however, I am concerned that we're one movie in, and
and I promise you, I rebooted everything before.
I know I did too.
So,
I did too. I started everything. So
yep.
Yeah,
so anyway, so I even built the scenes and saved the presentation, rebooted the computer, did everything I could to make sure. And it's Geek Boy's fault. It's all because
it's all my fault. Because I said, "Hey, man, we're doing good." That's right.
Yep, exactly.
That's right. But here's the thing, and I'm gonna kind of jump into what Mr. Narwhal was saying. I don't have a whole lot to add because I agree with everything everybody said. I have always felt that watching Zack Snyder's Justice League and Justice League, you put those two side by side, it's like film school 101. Like you can see how every single choice you make in a film will affect how it ultimately plays. It's also studio exec 101 to show you how when you got a lot of meddling and a lot of fingers in the pie, you can take something that could potentially been very, very good and turn it into a mess. Now, again, I think what we got on HBO Max would probably had Zack Snyder been allowed to shepherd his vision all the way to the finish line. I think what we got on HBO Max would have been like the 4-hour extended Blu-ray. I don't know how, but again, I don't know which one of those threads you pull on. It's kind of like Batman v Superman. You start pulling on some of those threads and you get a movie that's really not that good. So I'm not really sure how that was going to ultimately play out. I'm gonna agree with what Mr. Narwhal said about its length, and kind of, but I'm going to paraphrase what Turtle Gal said, which is she said it was a really good 4-hour movie, but she felt like it could have been an epic, amazing 3.5-hour movie. And I think she's probably right. But and there's a lot of things like that, that I think is the reason why it ended up at number 10. But it did end up at number 10. That's
right.
I mean, clocking it at 4 hours, you could say that Zack Snyder's Justice League is a big movie. It's certainly a lot of movie. I can give you that. But I believe the argument could be made that Mr. Narwhal's pick is a bigger movie, right? I mean, it's number 9, but it may tower over everything else in the countdown, up from the depths to number 9. Mr. Narwhal, what do you have for us?
I have Godzilla versus Kong.
Yeah.
So this movie was the one that was really the first big release once movie theaters started opening back up. This is the one that first got people to realize that the movies were coming back. It was the first big hit of movies in this year. It actually made close to $100 million, which is a huge accomplishment considering that most of the theaters were not open when this film came out, and the ones that were open in a very limited seating capacity. So, this movie sort of is the culmination of the previous 3 movies that we've gotten in the MonsterVerse, and it really gives us a battle royale that we've been wanting to see redone since the original Kong versus Godzilla back in the 60s. It was, I believe, the third of the original Godzilla movies that came out back in the day. Yeah, it came out that early.
Really? It was that early? I didn't realize that.
It was that early. Yeah. It was the third of the series. It came out before even films like Mothra and Rodan and Ghidorah. Yeah. So the really big pluses for this film was that you really have a full character arc, I think, now for the King Kong character, especially starting off with where he started in Kong Skull Island and where he ends up at the end of this film. You really get to see the progression of this character, and you really become invested in his journey, which is pretty amazing considering that he is literally a CG character. He is.
Yeah.
Not only is he a CG character, he's a CG character that doesn't talk, and there's no sort of interaction with him in that way. And then obviously you have the big G himself, Godzilla, and really Godzilla is almost a supporting character in this film. He's originally cast as the heavy, as the force of nature that he truly is. And he is going on the warpath, attacking a human civilization, and it almost falls to Kong to step up for the humans in this case. And then, of course, you have the big reveal of the third kaiju character in this film, Mechagodzilla. He's a character that people have been wanting to see on screen again for many years. He had 3 films back in the original series from Japan. I don't know whether or not his portrayal in this one was as interesting and impactful as maybe some of the other characters that we've had in the film series, but it was pretty good, and it was good enough to not only make close to $100 million, it was good enough to land at number 9 on our countdown.
That's right, and I also want to point out, as we will here in a minute, that it made all that money while being simultaneously released on HBO Max.
Yes.
So, sorry, I jumped ahead of the other guys in the countdown. Go ahead, Reverend or Goldar.
I was just so this is one of the ones that was not on my top 10 list. When it came to I'm trying to think, the thing that really just kind of turned me off on this, and I hate to say it, was really just the whole human aspect, the whole Millie Bobby Brown character and involvement, and literally all the humans in it were the annoying things about this movie. I did not like any human interaction. You literally could you just get to King Kong and Godzilla doing their thing? Because I mean, everybody else in the movie was just annoyed me. And so I've had a few problems with the previous Godzilla movies. Kong Skull Island was fantastic.
Oh God, I love that movie.
That one was fantastic. I figured, that was the one that got right into. You saw Kong right up front. There was a whole story about this, and it was very paid homage to the original King Kong, or at least my original King Kong. What was it? That was the one with Kurt Russell.
Oh, and Jessica Lange
in it and everything. That's the one I remember.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very representing of that one. So, but the Godzilla, basically, I always felt like I never got enough Godzilla time on the films and the ones that leading up to this. I got my Godzilla feel here. I mean, they panned out back enough that I could actually see full Godzilla, so that was happy. But yeah, just the humans were just like, man, are you serious? Get out of the way. I was like, Godzilla step on somebody. King Kong.
The humans are always the weakest part of the Godzilla movies. Always.
Yeah. So anyway, so we got a couple of before we go any further, I just want to say we got Shugal that's joined us here, and Sprout was back. So
awesome.
I did pop back over to our previous recording and told everyone.
Oh, Jimmy Carter's watching too.
Oh, very good. Hey. And so I told our fans to join our new broadcast due to a computer crash and stuff. So Jessica Lange, Brie Larson, yeah. So anyway, Goldar, what's your thoughts on Godzilla vs. Kong?
I feel exactly the way that you do. I think the human element just really subtracted a lot from the film. It's actually my biggest complaint for the Transformer movies too, is that
Yeah.
there's entirely too much like people like flailing their arms around and running in
Right.
slow motion and just like, and it's like, just cut all that out and just give us like monsters just fighting. Like that's all we want to
Exactly.
see. Like
Yeah.
we don't need like it would have been, you know, like for movies like Pacific Rim, where like there was actually a reason for the people to be in it and they were actually doing
Yes.
something.
Yes.
That added to the giant monsters feel for the film. Whereas this one, it was like they brought in some characters that we'd seen before in past films, but they were just there for a cameo. They didn't really do anything for the plot.
Yep.
And then they were gone. And then they would come back, and then we'd waste like 5-10 minutes like figuring out what they were doing that had nothing to do with what Godzilla and Kong were doing with each other. So it was kind of an odd juxtaposition to put them in there. It was, I don't know, it just seemed like it was something that like the producer was just like, no, we need more humans in this. And it's like, wait. You always tell us that we need giant monster films. Why would we want more humans in the giant monster film?
You do plan to have monsters in your monster film, right?
Yep.
Yeah. It's like, you know, that's how we got Wild Wild West, is because they wanted to have a giant spider in a Superman movie, and then it ended up being put into shoehorned into Wild Wild West. And it was like, what? So now we got giant monsters and they want to shoehorn humans into it. And it's like, what do you do? Okay. But outside of that, I thought it was a pretty entertaining film. We finally got to see the two of them duke it out. Again, just like Reverend was saying, Godzilla did not get very much screen time in his previous two movies, so that was kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
But he got a lot of time this time around. The whole center Earth, Middle Earth.
Hollow Earth,
Hollow Earth, which I know is like a conspiracy theory out there. That was interesting to say the least. I don't know that I'm on board with the physics of what was going on in that.
I got to tell you, that's the point. That's the point when I'm watching this thing, and I'm kind of agree with you guys. I am not the kaiju aficionado that Mr. Narwhal is. I enjoy a lot of those. I did not enjoy the design of Mechagodzilla in this. I'm kind of a purist on that. I thought he should look more like Mechagodzilla that we knew. But anyway, I'm like, all right, man, yeah, we got some, and yeah, all the humans are annoying, but I'm like, whatever. It's entertaining. It's great. Now all of a sudden we're on these maglevs going underground, and we're like, this movie is batshit insane at this point. Like, but damn if it's not entertaining.
Never mind that you have a 600-foot monkey and a giant iguana that's fighting it out. It's the whole Hollow Earth thing that's really the thing that breaks your suspension of disbelief.
Well, no, it didn't break my suspension of disbelief. It was just like, oh, we're doing this too. I mean, it was. I mean, like nothing, because it wasn't like. I mean, they were laying the ground for this in the earlier films. But I was.
Well, they did in Kong Skull Island, though.
Right. But I'm just like, oh my god, now we're doing this too. I'm like, as if this movie doesn't have enough.
Well, the thing that took me out of it the most, like the Hollow Earth thing, kind of took me by surprise. It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
The thing that took me out of it was the fact that they somehow downloaded this energy from Hollow Earth.
Yeah. Oh my god.
And then they sent it back up to this machine
via Wi-Fi.
Via some kind of movie magic, and then it powered Mechagodzilla, and then it had a mind of its own. At that point, I'm like, okay, so at this point, like now you're just kind of hand waving, like some of the things that are happening here.
Look at Godzilla. Look at King Kong Godzilla. Don't worry about this ultra like powerful power platform. God forbid you like market that for solving the world's energy crisis.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's like you will throw all scientific beliefs out the window for the rest of this third act.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay.
Sprout says, so Kong's people built Thor's axe. Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
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 Yes, sir.
That's
Yes,
right.
he
That's
did.
right. And he's in Avengers 4 coming up now.
That's right.
So.
He's
That,
well,
that
you know,
was also kind of weird too.
He
That,
was-
like Kong got like a powerful weapon at the end. I was like,
I
wait,
didn't
wait a
understand
minute.
that
Is this
either.
like this is like Krull or like the Master Sword from the Legend of Zelda? Like
Yeah,
we Excalibur, like we got special weapons in this now.
I know. They even had like the huge like pour thing in the floor there. He poured the thing and made the. I'm like, who the hell made these rooms for these giant animals to make these freaking? You know, it's not like there's. You know, maybe they were like super intelligent animals one time and they've just dumbed down over the years or not. But Kong looks like, oh yeah, it's an axe. Let me just pick this shit up and just.
They had a super giant Dr. Zaius is what they had.
That's
So.
exactly right. It was a.
But you know what's even more
They
wild?
should make a movie where there's a planet of nothing but apes.
Apes.
Wow.
But you know what's even more wild about all this? Like we watched this and we were like, it's not bad.
Yeah.
So I say you're
Compared
right
to-
because it's
compared
number
to some-
9 on our top 10 list. So
I know.
Uh-huh.
Exactly.
Yeah, compared to some of the other movies that made our dud list, like
Yeah,
we were
I
like,
know.
not bad.
Well,
Hollow
because you know
Earth,
why?
weird weapons, giant monsters that don't
I'll
make
take it.
sense.
Well,
All right.
here's the thing. This movie knew exactly what it was.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Mhm.
And like every other movie on this list, it didn't spend 2.5 hours preaching at me, the straight white male guy, and telling me how horrible I am just because of, genetics. So that it had that going for it. Not that it's that kind of podcast, but
No.
it did have that going for it. And I do understand there's still some lawsuits because I think Kong's people are suing because his scenes were cut out of Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm not exactly sure where that scene would have gone, but I do believe there was, especially since Godzilla was still in there, but right.
Oh, man. So with that, I think
Yes.
we should move on to our number 8. I was like, we're counting down. I was about to say 3, but no, we're on number 8.
The Ocho.
Number ocho.
Numero ocho.
Numero ocho.
I believe that puts me up in the spotlight, does
Yes,
it not?
it does, Geek Boy.
So
This was-
while Kong and Godzilla were battling it out on this countdown, I had a couple of things battling for my sensibilities in the terms are favorite versus best. Okay. Because we were going to do our top 10 favorite movies, right? Or of 2021.
Right.
And something can be your favorite and still not be the best, right? We all kind of understand. Like, I have no illusions that Star Trek the Motion Picture is not the best Star Trek movie out there, but it is my favorite, right?
Right.
So I ultimately boiled it down to favorite, meaning at some point, like we just kind of talked about, the joy of a movie may trump how well crafted it is or how good a piece of cinema it is. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So as such, I initially thought this movie would place Hot maybe closer to number 1. But once we did some voting and I did some thinking, it turns out that even though the spice must flow, it sometimes flows downhill. And that's right, folks. Coming in at number 8 is Denis Villeneuve's 2021 adaptation of Dune. And I'm going to tell you right now why this movie made my list. Adapting the novel of Dune was never going to be for the faint of heart, neither for the writer, director level or the studio head level, because this book is complex, it's dense, and it's expensive, okay, to do this thing. And having read the book about a year before the film opened, and I've talked about a lot of this in the reviews that we did, but I was just concerned about how they were going to do this. So much of the book takes place internally within the character's own thoughts. There's all these complex factions. There's the various houses and the guilds and the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, not to mention all the political machinations, and there's plots within plots. And it's just, and there's like in-world appendices and people are writing letters back and forth to each other that mean nothing, and
Right.
This is not a Saturday morning cartoon here, right?
No.
And I will be damned if Denis Villeneuve didn't pull this off, in my opinion. I realize the movie has its detractors. But I also think that in this day of studio filmmaking, I believe it's a rare thing where a filmmaker's sensibilities and the material that they've chosen kind of line up so well. But if you look at his past films like Arrival and even Blade Runner 2049, I know it's kind of divisive, but regardless of what you may think of those films individually, you can't deny that he was the best or maybe the only choice, maybe besides Ridley Scott, who could have pulled this off. And for me anyway, he managed to distill down the essence of the story and still maintain its grand scope. I mean, and one thing this movie does, man, it commits to itself and what it is. It has vision, it has scope, it has a great cast, it has everything I wanted from it except two things, and that was a great score and a freaking ending. Okay. I mean, it's, it is Dune Part 1 is probably the fact, it's not a perfect film. I mean, there's a few scenes that go on a bit too long, and you can argue that the characters come off a bit cold. I believe that was one of Sprout's biggest criticisms, and that's not an unjustified criticism. It's and I mean, again, the reason it was so nice to have a science fiction film that tried to have heady science fiction that was written by adults for adults, and it's not a feel-good heartfelt story. It's more like Lawrence of Arabia than it is of Star Wars. Okay, so I mean, and that's probably another reason why it ended up at number 8 and why I didn't fight for it to be like number 3. So those are my thoughts on Dune. I think everybody on this panel liked it universally, but I'm not sure. Anybody else want to take a go?
I'll jump in here. So, yes, I did like it. I mean, and it was, I believe, in my top 5, though it was number 5, my top 5. But you're right. There were certain things about it that was just kind of fun to watch. What's really interesting is that I actually got the Queen to watch it with me. She liked it so much that she wanted to go back and watch the 84 Dune just so that we would have, comparisons and can discuss it and all that stuff. And so when you get the Queen that's willing to go back and watch a movie, that's saying something. Now I ain't gonna say we didn't get some Queen rage when we found out the end of the Dune movie that 2 or 3 had not been approved yet, and she was about to have some heads because don't be dishing out a trilogy before if you're not going to be able to write finish the story out and everything. So obviously that got resolved pretty quickly, so no worries there. But there are scenes in the movie that are just phenomenal. I mean, the one that always pops to my mind is when they're basically the giant worm is just coming up, and all it is just a wall of a worm. And I think and we never saw it in the theaters. We only watched it at home.
But you missed out, man.
But that's what we heard. He's like, you missed out, but you know what? On my TV, man, it was still massive. I mean, tell me, in the theater on the film, was it edge to edge worm wall, or did they show any sky behind it? Because I know
there was a little bit of sky, but not a whole lot. I mean,
so on the TV here, it seemed like all the screen was just a wall of that worm coming up. And I mean, on our TV, we were able to see every scale, every notch, every little tooth. And I mean, it just really it really was like, it drove home how massive this critter was. And so, but I mean, great story, great acting. There wasn't the, sick kind of, sexual innuendos from a certain villain that, I was in the Dune 84. You're like, interesting. But,
that's in the book too. So
yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So, if you were here for our Dune review back in December, between Courtney and Ronnie and everything, I don't even think, were we even on that show? I mean, I know I hosted it.
I know,
but I really think it became the Courtney Ronnie show on that.
I think they got a buddy cop movie in development.
I think they do too. So it's called Red and the Colonel, or Colonel Red or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, but no, I really enjoyed this movie. I'm fine with where it fell on our list of rankings, but it was definitely an enjoyable movie for me.
Okay.
I thought it was good. Obviously it suffers just because it's the first half
Mhm.
of the story, and you get a lot of that setup and you get a lot of that exposition, but you don't get the big payoff that you might be looking for. But but we're talking about Dune here. This is a legendary book, and it's legendarily difficult to adapt for not even the big screen, for any screen out there, really.
And a legendary studios production.
Oh yeah. But I think that Denis Villeneuve has done as good of a job as anybody living could have done with this film. For what it was, I thought it was really entertaining. Like I said, I was just sort of waiting to see a little bit more out of it, and I think that once we get the rest of the story, I'm hoping that the appreciation for the first film will increase significantly from a lot of people.
Yeah,
Eldar?
I know. I thought it was a great film. Just based on what Geek Boy and Bruce Star were describing, I was expecting the film to be a mess as far as like how they were going to put the story out there, but it was actually relatively easy to follow. Within the first 5 minutes of the film, I kind of knew what was going on already. So it was like, okay, you got me sold. And if this movie is like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and I already know what's going on in the first 10, 15 minutes of the film, like now you can just show me whatever you want to, and I'm along for the ride. Um, so yeah, they did a fantastic job with that. The visuals were very beautiful. I totally understand what you said. It was Sprout that said that the characters were kind of cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's kind of a theme I've seen in a lot of films where like they have like really, really beautiful visuals, but the characters are kind of cold, or the film has a completely different tone and the characters are very lovable, but the film is not beautifully shot. Like it's not like this art piece. It's kind of like a weird kind of like I guess divergence there that they don't that the filmmakers haven't gotten to the point where they can do both pretty consistently. But it does happen sometimes. But yeah, I agree. The characters were a little bit cold. Probably the one that really stood out to me the most was Jason Momoa's character. He did have some personability to him. So I enjoyed his screen time while it lasted. Unfortunately, he didn't last through this film. I was hoping to see him more in the second one. But the film left me intrigued. I want to see where this goes and how things are resolved. Given how they left it, I thought they were already developing a sequel or had it put together and were just waiting to release it when they released this one. And I was surprised to hear that they were scrambling to get together to do another one afterwards. I'm like, wait, you didn't have a plan for this? You were just going to end the film like this with no plan? I
Well, now it's my understanding that they had the script written and Denis Villeneuve did a lot of previs on it, but so that because I think that's the only way he's going to make the release dates because he already knows what he's going to do. He was just waiting to get the go ahead from Warner Brothers. But my thing is surely you signed all these actors, right?
Yeah,
You've got all these guys committed, right?
Well, except for Jason Momoa, you need him.
Yeah. I'll tell you one thing that kind of irked me a little bit about it is like throughout all the trailers, Zendaya was there, and you didn't get to see her until almost like, she didn't come on scene until like the last 20, 30 minutes of the movie. And so I was like, I thought that was kind of a bait switch is that, because I'll tell you, I've really become a huge Zendaya fan. She's done phenomenal. I never saw her. I guess she was a big like Nick Jr. star and stuff like that for a long time, but her roles in the whole Spider-Man thing, loved her in actually The Greatest Showman. She was a great thing. I hear she's doing great things on Euphoria on HBO, I think it is. And so I've just become a really big fan of hers. And kind of like, I know we got a lot of kind of dream sequence where she's standing there and not really doing a lot. And then we only got her for like the last 30 minutes of the movie. I was just like, oh man, you have kind of almost like today's, name star, and you just kind of keep her hidden in the wings until the last 30 minutes. I think you're kind of doing an injustice. You're kind of hoping to bring in some younger fans because of their fans of her, and then you only give her 30 minutes of actual talk time.
Well, and see, that's kind of having read the book. I was really surprised where the movie ended because they did feature her in the marketing material so much, and knowing what character she was playing, I thought, oh damn, they're gonna I figured it would end with Paul drink. No spoiler. I'm not going to spoil a book that's freaking 60 years old.
Well, in a movie that's was put out over 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
I thought that because they featured her so much in the material, in the marketing material, that the part one would end with Paul taking the water of life.
Now, in the 84 movie, Zendaya's character is the same character, Sean Young.
Sean Young, yeah.
Right.
So I figured, because when he takes it, he basically, for all intents and purposes, looks like he drops dead, and he's in a coma for a long time. And so, like, there's time for time to pass. I thought, man, that would be a perfect way. And then when he comes out of that coma, man, he is the Kwisatz Haderach for all intents and purposes. So I thought, okay, and then especially when they show the battle footage where he's in the gold armor, I thought, okay, this is where this is going to end. Oh no, we ended way sooner than that. But I think they added the Zendaya footage earlier in the film, because during the hiatus between the time the movie was supposed to come out and the time that it was released, Denis Villeneuve kind of did some retooling, and he, because in the novel and in the 84 film, it's the Princess Erelon that's kind of the framing device that the movie uses. Well, she's the daughter of the emperor, who we haven't even seen yet. And it's like, in some ways, I think that was a smart choice, because it's like, okay, you're going to confuse the audience or you're going to give the audience one more thing to be confused about. You're showing this character that no one knows who they are. Yes, she's the daughter of the emperor, but you're holding the emperor back for part two. So I think it was a good choice. Kind of like what Goldar said, and what you said about the Queen. Turtle Gal had I think she saw the Sci-Fi Channel 2000 miniseries, but that was more like a stage play than it was an actual movie. But I think she might have seen part of that, but she really had no frame of reference. She understood the story totally, really appreciated it and liked it. So again, I think this ends up in a perfect slot at number 8. On our countdown. It made the best of list, but it's not the best of the best. So now we're going to move on to the first of our 2 surprises that hit this list. I mean, we had a couple of dark horses kind of sneak in. Both of them are courtesy of Goldar. I will say it now. This first one, I won't say it's a complete surprise. It's like it's not like I had to take a red pill to believe it or anything. But given how divisive this film has been, I would have been totally unsurprised if it either ended up as a top 10 pick or one of the disappointments. So take your pill. And with that bit of clear ambiguity, I'm going to give it over to Goldar for his pick for number 7 of our countdown, which is what, sir?
The Matrix Resurrection.
Yes.
So I've actually been really looking forward to this film since I heard they announced it. Just given how they ended the Matrix Revolutions, there were so many unanswered questions that I had, given what they had told us in the second film, The Matrix Reloaded, and what happened in the third one, Revolutions. So hearing that Resurrections was coming around, just by the title, okay, it means that we're getting another version of the Matrix, or somebody's coming back from the dead, and it definitely ended up being that, but it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be. And they did that in a very clever way. So one of the things that, and I would say one of the reasons why it was a little bit divisive was because it does what a lot of sequels and reboots do, is it treads over the nostalgic bits and pieces, again, that people loved about the original, which kind of faults it into that regard, where people are like, okay, I've seen this before, there's nothing new. But what they forget about the Matrix is that's the point. The Matrix is an upgraded version, or a different version of one that's already existed, just like a piece of software. You don't get a brand new piece of software every time there's an update. There's just minor revisions that come with it. So with that, I was walking into this fully accepting that we're going to see some slight weirdness and changes that came with this, but we're going to see some new things too. So they started off the film basically telling us that Neo is back in the Matrix, or, well, we know he's back in the Matrix, but he thinks he made the Matrix and his past life was a video game. And I thought that was a very interesting way that they introduced the plot to the film, because it plays on his amnesia and also messes with his level of paranoia and psychosis and anxiety that he's having, basically playing on his weakness and saying, oh, this was all in your head. Like, this didn't happen. Like, they're playing mind games with him, and basically making him take a blue pill to suppress his powers. So I was very curious too how they were going to bring back Morpheus, but not Morpheus.
Right.
So they had I believe his name is Yahya Abdul Mateen, who's been in a ton of films. He's also in the next film that we're about to discuss. He's all over the place. This guy's doing a lot of stuff.
Well, and he's rapidly becoming one of my favorite actors. I mean, he like came out of nowhere for me, like with Aquaman, and like now it's like you said, he's in everything.
Yeah, and he's fantastic.
Yeah.
And he did a great job playing Morpheus, and how they introduced how Morpheus comes back makes sense, and it's very interesting, because it plays on the idea that Neo created Morpheus as basically like a virtual non-PC that comes back and essentially reminds him of who he is, which is very, very interesting, because I wish they would have gone more into detail about how Neo did that. Because based on what we understand from what the film told us, and also the Matrix Online game that came out after the 3 films did, Morpheus was assassinated by the machines at one point. And they basically hint at Morpheus was wanting to recover Neo's body at some point, and the machines weren't having that. So Morpheus retaliated and started releasing these code bombs in the Matrix. And the machines basically assassinated him after that point, according to the Matrix Online game. They didn't go into that detail in the movie, but they basically said that the machines killed him.
Yeah. So it didn't contradict it.
Yeah, so they didn't contradict it. So what Neo would have done had to have taken place before he went back into the Matrix to fight Smith the final time, which makes me think, like, what else did Neo do before? Like, he had to have orchestrated some kind of really complicated master plan and knew what was going to happen walking into that final fight and making that agreement with the machines to take out Smith. That's kind of like next level genius. That's almost like seeing in the future. Yeah. So I'm kind of like, what else did you do? Like, I'm really intrigued by that bit of it. But again, anyway, with the film, we Neo finally wakes up and realizes who he is and his importance. But we also discover that Trinity's incredibly important as well, and that the two of them have some kind of special bond that the machines are feeding off of, and basically using to help entrap people further in the Matrix. And we get Neil Patrick Harris's introduction as he's not the architect. He's the what was his name?
Analyst?
The analyst is
the analyst.
He's the analyst. Yes.
I kept wanting to call him the architect, but he's the analyst. Yeah.
So he's the replacement for the architect. He's the
Correct.
analyst who's a little bit more personable. He speaks in a way that is a lot more palatable than the architect was, because that monologue, I had to watch it a few times to kind of get what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
But
Can you imagine watching that drunk? What's he talking about, man?
Oh yeah, that would be a rough one.
Yeah.
But the analyst broke it down basically in such a really clever way as to why the Matrix is what it is and why people are still in it and how he's controlling people and how he's controlling everybody in there. And he also gave us kind of a run for our money because he was able to do certain things that even Neo was not able to do in the last films that we saw. So I love this film. I thought it was fantastic. The way that they did the story, it was very clever. I'm really glad that it was a Wachowski that got to do it because, from what I understand, Warner Brothers was going to do this with them or without them, and I think
Yes,
it
they
would have
were.
been.
As they
And I
even
think-
alluded to in the movie.
Yeah, and they joked about that in the movie too. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
This movie is very self-aware, very
Yeah.
self-aware, and I enjoy films that are that self-aware, that they know what they're doing, that they know what they're wanting to say. They're not getting too preachy with you, but they want to like make you think for a minute, and give you a little bit of what you've seen before, but kind of make you excited and also feel the feels a little bit. So
Yeah.
I enjoyed this film. I honestly, I don't know where they would go if they made another one, but I'd be in for it.
Okay. Who wants to go next on the Matrix Resurrections?
I mean, I'll definitely. I've got a few things that will just, but I pretty much echo everything that Goldar has said. But the self-awareness and the inside jokes it gives it throughout the entire movie are just fantastic. I mean, even to the fact that Neil Patrick Harris's cat, the analyst is named Deja Vu. So
Yeah.
I mean, just the thing is littered with little Easter eggs that you've got to know the previous movies to understand. And so and again, the self-awareness of this was just phenomenal and everything. So yeah, I enjoyed this probably way more than I thought I would have. But again, it was such a great movie, so much fun. Yeah, I just not much more I can say that hasn't already been spoken.
Okay. Mr. Narwhal, have you seen Matrix Resurrections yet?
I have not seen it yet.
Okay.
It's on my list, but honestly, I haven't been that excited about it. That I like everyone else, I love the first one, but after the previous two movies, that really, I guess, tempered my interest in the franchise, and just the fact that it's been so many years since we had the last installment of it. It's not been super high on my list. I've had other irons in the fire, as it were, but just based on what Goldar said, I've actually got a little bit more enthusiasm to watch it now. So
okay, well, now I'll say I did not enjoy it as well as Goldar did, but I did enjoy it. I mean, now granted, I went into this thing with very low expectations. I mean, they were like, "Hey man, we're gonna go see Matrix," because I'm like, I'm just gonna watch that on HBO Max. They were all going, and they gave me the invite. I'm like, I don't want to. And Stephanie's like, "Hey, it's a fanboys night out." I'm like, you know what? You're right. Hell with this. And I'm like, I'm going to hang out with you guys. Not really. I really don't have a lot of hope for this movie.
Yeah.
So that's how low my expectations were. So as the movie starts to unfold, I'm like, hey, I'm kind of digging this. I mean. Everything like what Goldar said, I love the self-awareness of it. It knows it's a sequel. I mean, even, like as Goldar said, they've made Neo a video game designer, and his partner, who I'm not going to reveal who that is, but comes up to him and is like, "Hey, Warner Brother, our developing partners at Warner Brothers want to remake The Matrix." And he's like, "Well, I don't want to do that." And he said, "Well, they're going to do it. They're going to do it." It's like, "Well, don't we have a contract? They can't do that." They're like, "Well, they found a loophole in it, and they're going to make it with or without us. So we might as well get some of that Matrix cheddar." And he's like,
Yeah.
"All right, fine." I mean, that's literally a line in the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so self-aware. I liked all the little Easter egg callbacks. I don't know if I'm as in love with the story as Goldar is, but again, I was not like checking my watch during this thing. I mean, it's got a lot of, every performance in it is great. I really do like the message that they're sending with both Neo and Trinity. You know, because my first thought in the climate right now, oh great, Neo is no longer the one, Trinity's really the one. You know, I in the environment we're in, I could just, and that is not what happened. Matter of fact, it was something actually much more yin and yang, much more. Okay, I'm just gonna say it. It's the exact same plot as Hancock, but all right, you know, I'm, I'm not gonna actually, of course, sort of Hancock in reverse, I guess.
Yes, so I say it was more Hancock in reverse of using
Yeah.
that analogy.
But no, I mean, I really kind of dug it. I mean, is it perfect? I don't think so. But considering the expectations I had for it, yeah, it's definitely worth a watch. But again, it's divisive. Not everybody digs it. I gave it a 7 out of 10, which is ironic where it landed on this countdown. Bruce Starr gave it a 1. I mean, he hated it. You know, now I will say my biggest disappointment for the movie was that there was no new groundbreaking visual effects in this film.
Yeah. No new bullet time. That's the one thing. I was hoping
everybody remembers the theater you were in and what you did the first time you saw bullet time on that screen. And you were like, oh my God. I mean, that's the point where I'm like, okay, I'm on this. I don't know where this ride's going, but you have my attention, you know? And I mean, I saw it opening night. Again, kind of like this, very little expectations. And I remember the audience erupted in applause in that entire first Trinity action sequence. And it's like, okay, you know, and there was nothing in this movie that made me go, oh, wow, I've never seen that before. You know, so if there was one disappointment, I guess that's what it would be.
I agree. Bullet time became such a staple in that movie that and it's become such a staple in games now and stuff. I mean, if you think in the amount of games that are out there that basically you can now slow down time to target something or get a faster draw on. I mean, Red Dead Redemption 2, even the Matrix games they had, there's tons of other games out there that give you the ability to slow down time so that you can get the perfect shot off or wherever you want it. And you're right. That is one thing I was highly wanting to see was what's the new Matrix hotness that they could bring out. Because you're right. Everyone knows bullet time, and so not getting something like that, that's probably why it didn't fall as high up on mine. Is that just some of the groundbreaking stuff that the original Matrix did was not repeated, and of course you can't always strike lightning. Lightning can't always strike twice. So,
but so that was kind of a letdown. And speaking of letdowns. I think we're going to take a break from the Love Fest to throw out our first big disappointment of the year.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm going to let the Reverend kind of take us to church on what he feels was his biggest letdown of 2021.
So, growing up, like I said, I was into comic books, but also there was one kind of toy that I always collected, even collected the comic book series, and that was G.I. Joe, and loved it. And of course, my favorite character was Snake Eyes. Well, unfortunately, the movie Snake Eyes that was released based on kind of like a G.I. Joe origin story. So, oh my God. I mean, my hatred for the movie, I guess, is almost on par with my hatred for the Joker movie, because had you just told me this was just some other movie that, you could have called this, as long as it wasn't affiliated to G.I. Joe, you called Snake, and that was that was just the character and everything, I would have bought it. Okay. But you're asphyxiating this beloved character name and character onto this movie. There's going to be expectations. If you're a huge fan of G.I. Joe, that basically Snake Eyes took a vow of silence and all that stuff. And so you're going into a movie about Snake Eyes and he's talking in all the commercials. You figure by the end, you're going to find he's taking this vow of silence. Fuck no, you don't. You get nothing. I mean, like you don't even know really where the kinship forms between him and Scarlet in this movie. All you really know is that he pissed off the future leader of the clan, who turns into be Storm Shadow. And I'm like, what? And really, we didn't see that shit coming at all. So I mean, like, there was just nothing exciting about this movie. The choreographed martial art fights and stuff were good, but I mean, it's nothing that we haven't never seen before. I mean, heck, Mortal Kombat was probably just as on par on their combat scenes. And I'm talking about the new one, of course. But I mean, just there was nothing. And then, of course, this whole thing where you had the trial of the snake, and I'm like, really? I'm like, guys, all right, I know we're basing this off GI Joe, and there's some liberties you can take, but I mean, like, yeah, I don't know, man. There's just so many things wrongs with it. It just makes me upset to even talk about it. But Snake Eyes, Snake Eyes was just such a letdown, like the guy, whatever his name, Henry is, or whatever the guy that played Snake Eyes. There you go. Yeah, I couldn't remember that Henry, and I was just like, bless your heart. I know you tried and stuff, but I mean, dude, I liked your character better in what was the Man with the Iron Fist and stuff like that. You did a better job in that movie. And the only reason I can say that is I actually watched it this week. It was on HBO in the hotel I was at. And so I was like, oh,
this great movie.
That is a great movie. I enjoyed that. Great cast, great story.
RZA is great in that film.
Yes,
sir.
Yes. Yeah. Dave Bautista is in there as well. I mean, you got anyway, we're getting off topic. But anyway, so I mean, like, so with getting back to Snake Eyes, literally it was just a very dull story. Had very GI Joe undertones that basically, didn't answer any of your GI Joe theories. The whole Snake Eyes thing, they didn't really even pay tribute to the character in my mind. In the past, whenever I've read about him, he always was the honorary person. He was always the upstart. Well, in this telling,
not in this movie.
Not in this movie. He was a dirty ass snake, pun intended. And apparently he failed the trial of the snakes, but the whole clan turned on the future leader that trusted him just because he knew he had the future, the potential to be good. But I'm sorry, you can't be the leader because you trust this guy. But you know what? You're okay. We'll give you our colors. We'll give you our symbol, and respect. Appreciate your help there, bro. And I'm just like, wow, you just got everything wrong. So I don't even think I checked to see if this thing made any money. But if they did, they should give money. Yeah, seriously, they should give our money back.
Let's see. Let's just. I'll head to the Wikipedia's while anyone else wants to.
In my opinion, it wasn't a horrible movie. I mean, I watched it. I enjoyed it just as long as I completely divorced myself from the idea that this was supposed to be Snake Eyes and G.I. Joe, right? Just because the things that the character does and the way the character is so diametrically opposed to who that character is supposed to be. And really, if Marvel films have taught us nothing else, these characters already have established backstories and established character traits. And if you're going to make a movie that has this brand and this character set and this set of expectations, you have to deliver on that. And it doesn't matter if you make a good movie, because I mean, completely taking this out of the G.I. Joe universe, I thought it was a pretty decent movie.
I agree.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right. Yeah,
but it's not the character, and it's not the movie that not only it should have been, but it's not it's not the universe that it should have been.
No,
I agree. Yeah, and so I made a reference to the Joker movie, and that's the Joaquin Phoenix. And again, that was a great movie. The thing that made me upset about it was the fact that it was a Joker movie. And that's one of the things that I've always liked about that villain, is that there's never been the true definitive story or origin story of who the Joker is. There's always been stories about who it could possibly be and all that kind of stuff, but it's never been a truly established that the Joker is this character. And then you're going to put out a Joker movie that tells me his origin. And at the end of it, we're supposed to, I felt like it was trying to tell me that we should pity the Joker. And I'm like, no, I want my deranged clown psycho going out and killing people that I don't care. I mean, that is the Joker to me. It's like he is a villain with no past and no cause other than just causing death and mayhem. And so when you're going to throw me a Snake Eyes movie, I want my Snake Eyes to either you're going to tell me why he's taking this vow of silence and gone through his training and all that, and found his affiliation with GI Joe, or you need to make me, like I said, a movie about a character named Snake who that was a dirty rotten scoundrel who found his way through the ninja clan of the House of S or something. I don't know, and it came out on the other side, but.
It's not. It's not Snake Eyes. It's box cars. That's
yeah, exactly. I like it.
Yeah. No, I agree with the Reverend. And to even touch on the Joker a little bit, they didn't even pick the right origin story for the Joker. Like,
no.
There was one, I think it was the Killing Joke, that told like a big like backstory for him and everything like that, and they totally didn't even go that route. So that's kind of like what they did with this. Like they, this kind of goes with Mr. Narwhal was also saying as well. Like, you can tell whatever story you want to as long as you get the character right, but they didn't do that either. So it was like, what the hell is this? Like, the thing that miffed me the most, just like the Reverend was saying, was there was no explanation for his taking a vow of silence. So it's like, is this even Snake Eyes? Like, I know he put on the costume at the end of the film, which it would have really done them better to give him the costume like in the third act, so he could use it that whole time, or even in the second
scarring, or the scarring that the character has too.
Right.
Yeah. They would have done them well to put that in there at that point. I don't know why there was a giant snake in here. Remember how I was saying earlier, producers just like to put giant monsters and stuff for no reason? Like, this is another great example of just putting giant monsters in here. It's like, well, now you should have just put more people in to make the story more interesting, because the giant snake is not helping at this point.
I've only seen one movie where putting a giant snake in actually worked, and that was freaking Harry Potter and in the Chamber of Secrets. They got that shit right. I was like, okay, well, you wrote that shit well. But I'm saying, the giant.
It's so funny because none of us have talked about this movie. I think this is the first time we've all ever talked about it. And I was thinking the exact same thing that Mr. Narwhal said when I finally watched it, because I have access to a Vudu account that might have it on there. And I was like, man, I'm don't watch choice number 6, which everybody's really happy about, and then watch this shit movie. So I watched it, and I was thinking the exact same thing. Is like, did someone like greenlight a martial arts movie, and some studio exec said, hey man, we're supposed to be making a GI, hey, let's change some of these names around and make this, I mean, literally, like, let's shoehorn some GI Joe stuff into this martial arts movie. I'm like, if it would have just been a regular generic martial arts movie, probably would have been fine, except for one other thing. When you shoot a martial arts movie, understand you're shooting a martial. Don't give me regular jump cut, standard Fast and Furious camera. No, you're supposed to shoot a martial arts movie like the freaking Raid, okay? Right. Or the Raid 2, even Raider, okay? I mean, that's how you're supposed to shoot a long, establishing shots. Let it, I mean, because this looks like just any other fight scene where the energy's created in the edit bay. No. Give me, if these guys are supposed to be two badass martial artists. I've already accepted the fact, because it's a martial arts movie, that just because it's everybody in the movie knows martial arts, because that's just how that shit rolls, just like in American action movies, how everybody knows how to drive a car and shoot a gun. But like, if you're going to do all this martial arts, show me the martial arts. Don't like do all this shaky cam, close so that was annoying. I found that to be kind of annoying. Again, and when you're not making Snake Eyes the hero of his own movie, it's very frustrating. I thought the guy playing Storm Shadow had way more charisma than he did.
Yeah.
And we all know, and we've all seen Henry Golding and other things where he does a great job. So I don't know if he was given bad direction by the director or what, but I guess really the most frustrating thing, again, going back to what everybody's been saying about the characters and the mythology, it's not like they don't have a template for this, right? I
Right.
mean, it's the same thing we bitch about with DC and anime. DC's anime. It's like you had an entire comic book series, an entire animated series that showed you how to do this, right? I mean,
Mhm.
I'm okay. Full disclosure. G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra is a guilty pleasure of mine. I kind of enjoy that movie.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, again, it's not a perfect G.I. Joe movie, but at least they were trying, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, and to the point that I was really excited about G.I. Joe Retaliation. Hell, the longer that movie went on, the more pissed off I got. You know, it's
Mhm.
like, what the hell? Like, how do you fix all the costumes and fuck everything else up? You know, it's like, damn. And this you could you just messed everything up. You know, it's like, for crap's sake, man. I
mean, the and not to throw any shade, but the actresses they got to play Scarlet and
oh my
Baroness,
god,
they just like
yeah.
they just look underwhelming. And
yeah.
they were just something
really-
about them. They were just not personable.
That's
that
one
I,
thing, man. Both actresses are escaping me. Their names are escaping me. Rachel Nichols is who played Scarlet in Rise of Cobra. The actress that played the Baroness, again, her name escapes me. They knew who they were playing.
Yeah,
They totally understood the assignment.
Yeah.
Right. Like
Mhm.
they totally understood the assignment when they
Yep.
said, "You're Scarlet, okay."
Yep.
You know, you're the Baroness. Okay, darling, I'm the Baroness.
Yep.
I mean, hell, Christopher Eccleston understood he was Destro. I
Yeah.
mean, I mean,
Yeah.
just, you know, JGL as Cobra Commander. I don't know about that, but
right.
I mean, I think they got that character fairly right. You know,
Mhm.
I don't know, but man, they got Destro on point, and it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
again, that's not a perfect movie. But damn, almost every key person in that understood the assignment, and
Yep.
nobody in this movie understood the assignment at all.
And the last thing I'll even say about this is that they did not even touch or even scrape the surface of the relationship between Scarlet and Snake Eyes that was in the comic book.
Right.
One of my, and I don't own it any longer, but it was one of my favorite comic books at the time, and it was literally Scarlet was captured by Cobra Commander. She was being held captive. The Joes were not going in to get her because they thought it was too dangerous. So Snake Eyes took a solo mission in, and literally it's a cover to cover story of that rescue mission without a single page of dialogue in it.
Right.
And it's like one of the most riveting comic books that I mean, to this day, I still remember almost every page to page scene on that rescue. And like I said, there was not a single word of text on it, but you could feel the tension. You could feel the excitement, the energy coming off the page from it. And
I remember that book. I had that book, and my heart breaks for you, my friends. That's what that book is worth, so much damn money because of what it is.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
it's
probably in the mini storage, wasn't it? Yeah.
We're not going to talk about that.
See, so some things that I was just thinking about just now, like what I would have changed for this film, I would have kept the thing where Snake Eyes was trying to get revenge on you know, the people that killed his father. But what I would have changed was they killed his father, but to keep him from talking, they cut his tongue out. So now
easy. It's not about silence. He just can't talk.
He just can't talk. So now we got that. But now, like through this whole film, like all of the acting, all of the communication is just on the character's face.
Mm-hmm.
So like that probably would have been a challenge for the director and the actor that they chose, Henry.
Well, they did it with Nick Cage in Willy's Wonderland, which was a great performance by him.
Well, I was even thinking they did a great story with it with A Quiet Place. Not a whole lot of dialogue there, but man, the emotion, the fear, the anger, everything on their face was there without a single word being said. Yeah, you had a few scenes, but a lot of it was done by either the pure silence of the scene or the movie, or not the movie, the music that was playing on in the background. It helped tell the story, and the actors, that's probably the one thing, is the actors had to act and not just do dialogue. And we've seen it in movies where it is possible. And like you said, that would have been a great way to get the whole Snake Eyes silence thing, and basically would have just had to gone in that way. So I mean, there's so many things they could have done right to this movie and chose not.
Yeah. So I would have probably left out GI Joes totally in this film.
Yeah,
I would have just
it
left.
served no purpose.
I would have
Right.
just left Cobra in it. The Cobra is a main villain. Snake Eyes just happens to be going after them in that, and then just left it at that. No giant snakes. Maybe the Ninja School, but like
Ninja School would've been fine.
I would have probably focused a little bit more on it and less about him trying to get in and master it versus like being a part of it and being a high ranking member of it.
Yep.
Solely to just obtain the deadly skills to be able to seek out his revenge, which might be against the rules of the ninja school. But you know, in the end, he gets his revenge, but it's still not enough for him. So, you know, maybe he learns some kind of lesson from that. So that's just something that I just tossed out there as an idea for it. Is it better than what we got? I don't know, but it still makes more sense.
Yeah,
I think personally.
Yeah.
Is it sad that we've talked longer about the one we hate than all the other ones we put together? I think.
Well, there's a lot to hate on that movie.
There's a lot to hate on that one. So.
And I was not wanting to hate it. I was looking forward to it.
I was looking forward to it.
I was too. I'm again, like I said, Snake Eyes was my favorite character.
Yeah.
And Ray Parker from the very first one got it right.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway,
so
let's have some good news.
Let's have some good. I think what we talk about a movie that I certainly didn't expect anything from because I didn't see it. But Goldar has, and it's the second unexpected film. It is. You know, if Matrix was unexpected, Matrix was a surprise. This was a blindsiding. I mean, pure dark horse gold here. Another passionate pick from Goldar, and unfortunately, I think he's the only one who's qualified to talk about this one. So with that, Goldar, why don't you let everybody know about this film that you were so excited for? You were so excited for it that it came in at number 6.
Yeah. So I watched Candyman. Growing up as a kid, like horror movies were really, really important to me because it was like this taboo thing that I wasn't supposed to watch it, but I really wanted to watch it. But at the same time, they gave me nightmares all the time. So then it became a thing where I just watched them so that I could get over being afraid of them. But Candyman was probably one of the hardest ones as a kid to get over because the fact that it kind of riffs off of the Bloody Mary thing, you know, where you say the name several times in the mirror and then he appears. You know, that was one thing that you still anytime you still do that, it's still kind of creepy. Even though you know nothing's going to show up, it's still creepy no matter what. Everybody knows somebody who's had a joke played on them based on Bloody Mary or Candyman at some point or another. So going back and revisiting this film, I really wish I would have watched the original one before watching this, because this is actually a sequel to that film, and they basically expand upon the character of Candyman.
Oh, see, I didn't know that. I thought it was a reboot.
Yeah, it expands on it. So in the original film, Candyman was basically just a man that essentially he became this this character seeking revenge essentially. But in this film, they made the name Candyman a mantle, and they expanded upon it using Black history. So essentially, in this, Candyman became a mantle for all of the tortured Black men through history that have dealt with injustice.
Oh, wow.
And they transform over time to become this character to seek that revenge.
Almost like a Ghost Rider kind of.
Yeah, it's basically a spirit of vengeance, pretty much.
Dude, this sounds cooler than shit.
Dude, where the hell was these type of freaking trailers? I mean,
I know.
I mean, like, I would have gone out and watched that immediately. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is badass sounding. But I just knew what original Candyman was, so it's like, it's just another Freddy Krueger movie. It's another, that kind of thing. And so, it just, anyway, Tony Todd, I believe, played the original Candyman.
Tony Todd was the original Candyman. He did
make an appearance. Okay.
Yeah, he does make a very, very brief appearance towards the end of the film. So again, Yahya Abdul Mateen plays the main character in this one. He's he's a starving artist essentially that's trying to come up with a piece of artwork that is that will become critical or paramount for his career, and he's struggling trying to come up with something that's powerful piece. And he stumbles upon Candyman and starts doing some paintings that basically highlight some of the pain that Black culture is experienced in the past. And at first some of the people that are reviewing his art say like it's kind of contrived and they don't get it and things like that. But as time goes on, like they start, his artwork becomes more graphic and more darker as he himself starts transforming into the next Candyman. So it's definitely got some dark tones like the first film did. It definitely expands on the character's history, which I really very much love. That's my favorite thing about certain films is when they expand on some of the finer details or give you more to it that you really didn't expect, that make it interesting.
They do it without breaking it.
Without breaking it,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So watching this film, I really enjoyed it. I wish they would have given Freddy Krueger this kind of depth. Like,
that's exactly what I was about to say. In that, Candyman is really the only one of the slasher films that has been able to successfully reinvent itself for the 21st century. They've tried it with Freddy Krueger, they've tried it with Jason Voorhees, they tried it with Michael Myers, and you've had certain levels of success with some of these, but in my opinion, I think this new version of Candyman is really the only truly successful reinvention of a slasher character, just because they've given it context and they've given it a reason to exist in the 21st century. Back in the 80s, when you had the big slasher craze, you didn't have to have a context, you didn't have to have a reason. It was just that you had this person in a mask or some other kind of gimmick, and they were going out and killing people, and that's all you needed. Right. And now I think that we've gotten to a point as a society and a culture where you have to have more of a justification for those kind of characters. And while things like Freddy Krueger and Michael Myers, they've tried to do that in certain cases and to certain levels. This, I think, is really the only time that they've nailed it in terms of updating that character while still keeping it 100% true to that original concept and original version of what we saw.
Wow.
So the new Scream movie that's come out and everything, they're talking, it's getting a lot of great reviews, and I'm wondering if maybe that is the next one, that maybe it's getting its new breath of freshness with that type of storytelling and everything, because it's getting some from what I'm reading, it's getting some pretty good reviews.
I've read the same thing.
It's staying with the original but bringing freshness to the story and stuff. But
now
hearing Goldar as a representation of Candyman and everything, I've got to go watch this now, because
what is it on a platform? Is it on, because I looked for it on HBO Max, it wasn't there. Does anybody know if it's on Netflix or something? Or
I don't know if it's on a platform. I don't know if it is.
Okay.
I just happened to find it to be able to watch it digitally.
Mm-hmm.
Just based on what they did with this story, just like Mr. Narwhal was saying, like, I think it truly is, like you were saying, it's the only successful reinvention of a horror character that's well known out of all of those characters. Like, with the most recent Michael Myers, truthfully, we're not getting anything really different with Michael Myers. And we talked about Halloween Kills. It's I mean, they did something interesting with the film, but not with the character at all.
Right.
He's the exact same. So I'm kind of hoping in the third one they give us something a little bit more about this character that we haven't seen before. And going into what the Reverend was saying for Scream, that's been my reservation for this film, because I almost feel like we've done everything that we need to do with Scream. Now we're going back and now we're going to find another killer that's connected to Sydney somehow. Like, who is this? Like the brother's cousin's grandma's son that wants to kill Sydney? Like, I don't understand. So I have reservations about this one, because I'm like, what are we going to reinvent for this that's going to be original? But hearing that people are saying good things about it gives me some hope. So I'm just hoping that because I've heard rumors that they're redoing Hellraiser.
I've heard that too. Yeah,
I'm got reservations about that one. I really hope that they do a good job with it, because it's getting harder to bring surprises now. Like you almost have to do something completely original and out of left field, which is even harder to do because a lot of things have already been done.
Well, and these days you have to go deeper. You have to go to the level of Us, or you have to go to the level of Get Out, or you have to go to something that resonates with an audience these days. It's not enough for it to just be a shape. It's got to have some sort of emotional. Yeah, a quiet place. It's got to have some sort of emotional connection behind the terror.
It's got to have depth, and I think you said it right. It's back in the 80s. We didn't have to have depth. We just wanted the blood, the gore, the jump scares, and all that stuff. But I think today, and we see this in a lot of movies, where it's got to have depth. It's got to have something that somebody can relate to keep the audience engaged.
That's what happens when people get all sobered up. Back in the 80s, all you needed was cocaine and capitalism, and you had great movies. The more cocaine and capitalism you had in the movie, the better it was back then, right? I mean, maybe it did give way to giant freaking metal spiders walking around, but for the most part, you couldn't go wrong with cocaine and capitalism.
This is true. So I think Goldar is the only one that's seen it on the panel. Is that correct? Or Narwhal, have you watched it? No.
Yeah, I've caught little bits and pieces of it on YouTube, but after hearing Goldar again give his review of this, I think this is one that I'm going to add to my list.
Me too. Absolutely.
I popped over and looked online, and it doesn't look like it's on any streaming platform for viewing, but it's on platforms for purchasing.
Okay.
So but
probably
anyway,
too new to.
Yeah.
Well, and I actually, so we can talk about this off air, but I have a server that the Reverend is joined where people can watch some of my movies, and I do own it.
Oh, okay.
So
that's going to be a Saturday. Since the winter's coming in this weekend, I'm gonna.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's no like it's no Northern Command Post 918 up there, but
the Tauntauns haven't started moving in yet.
Exactly. We're not having to worry about freezing by the first mile marker and everything, but our desire to get out in this said weather. Let's put it this way: I came home and made sure all the Christmas lights were down before, because I was like, I'm not doing that this weekend. So anyway, with that, so man, I'm with everyone on the panel. I'm like, I think this is definitely going to be one I need to get under my viewing belt sooner than later.
Yeah, me too. I agree. So with that, I think, with it being 10-11, we made a good choice of breaking this into two parts. Do we want to go into my disappointment? That'll give us 7 films for each episode, or do we want to save that for next time?
We'll save it for next time.
I'll say the name next time. Yeah, I agree. It's already after 11. We had that little blow up, but I think we covered quite quickly. I was just checking, and as of right now, I don't know what you're looking like, but I think we've lost some of our viewers for the evening. So I think
we have.
I think this point
Eli's here. He was here.
Okay.
At one point, Sprout jumped back in. We had Jimmy Carter here for a while, and Shoe Gal was here for a while. But it's getting late, and people have to work. But That's what you get when you. This is our Fanboys 918 first mini series that we're doing.
Exactly.
God,
Because
can you imagine if we were going to do a top 20? Oh my God!
Well, I mean, if you think about it, so before we wrap it up, I mean, we still got the 3 disappointments, and then we've got
The 5 remaining films.
5 remaining, so it's 8 total. So I mean, if we wanted to, we could throw in, we could even turn this into a 3-parter where everyone gets one just totally out of the field that's not on the list, and we talk about that one. I mean, and it doesn't matter if it was a Netflix movie or whatever. I mean, because I already know there's a couple that I didn't put on my list, but I'd love to do a shout out. So I say,
yeah, me too. I thought we might do, like, depending on how the time broke up, I thought we might do like some honorable mentions and whatnot.
Yeah, I say let's look at we've got 8 more to do, right? Is that right? Including our so why don't we do next week we'll do another 4 plus with maybe a shout out, and then finish that up on a 3rd series with our final shout outs.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about this online, get it all booked up and everything. Not that everyone's viewing is important about our lineup, because we love to surprise you guys.
This is not boding well for my idea to next year do the top 100 movies of all time. This is
well, that's a whole year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. That'll be the whole year right there.
Exactly. So, all right. Well, with that,
guys, I want to thank everybody who's tuned in. Sorry for the technical issues, but we recovered quickly. We'll be back next week with the next part of our countdown. And for Mr. Narwhal, Goldar, the Reverend IT Geek, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. Don't miss Sci-Fi Friday tomorrow. Don't miss the new episode of Fainerism Flicks. And don't miss the new episode of Night Crawlers for Fanboys 918. I am Geek Boy signing off. Peace.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true. You're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party and invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift would be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend.